workshop. We are about to start. Thank you for choosing us and undertaking this adventure to find this location. Actually, today, aim of this session is twofold. First, I'm going to show you the work of the Code for Europe Fellows. We started to work on the project in January 2013. And second, we're going to demonstrate how the city governance is going to change because of the work of the fellows. Just about myself, I'm working for the city of Amsterdam, economic department, and I'm involved in open innovation policy making and lobbying for open data and open innovation, like crowdfunding projects. So I'm negotiating a lot with local politicians to demonstrate the value of these projects. You're going to see it right now. Just about this workshop, it's a very interactive workshop, so you just raise your hand if you have any question and we can address it. So I would like to give the word to Professor Steffen from ESADE from Barcelona, who is actually started this project 2 years ago, and then we will demonstrate you the work of the fellows.
Well, thank you very much for coming. Did you lose your way the first time trying to find that thing? You are not alone, you're in good company. We have a lot of us, so thank you very much. This project, just a few words about how the thing began and so on. This project began with our idea of trying to bring innovation to the public sector. Maybe it seems a wild idea, but that is what we try to bring innovation to the public sector. And this started with another project that was called Open Cities. And Open Cities was about bringing open innovation to the public sector. And then we met Code for America, and Code for America had this idea of the fellows and so on, and we thought it was great to try to replicate and transform and bring this idea to Europe. And here we are. I mean, after 1 year, we have the first fellows, and we have the first apps, we have the first results after 1 year or something, and we have something to show and something to bring. Many of some cities in Europe interested for the situation and so on. So what are we trying to do is about change. That's our ultimate idea. Our ultimate idea, we think that we have to, the public sector needs change. It needs this change is the key of innovation. And that's why we try to connect. In this case, we have two big lines that are very interesting now. One is to connect fellows, people that are used to or want or work with a new kind of technologies to the city hall. Try to make the city hall change. And the other thing is, you will see later, is Europe Commons for Europe that tries to share all the code that is being made in city halls in order to get two things. One is not to replicate the same effort in every city, which sounds kind of stupid, but to use the efforts in every city instead of replicating them. And the second thing is to bring the opportunity for the cities to see what are the others and build on the work of the others, and therefore bring innovation to the cities. Maybe in this public sector in smart cities, maybe you can think that this time of changes, that many things are happening like this and other ones. We will try to move forward, and instead of a time of changes, we think that it should be a change of times, a change of the way that cities bring innovation and cities manage themselves. Well, the important thing are fellows, so let's go for it. Thank you.
Before we get to the fellows, I'm going to show you the framework why we started with this project. Sorry for the technical break. the one who just arrived recently, I'm working with the City of Amsterdam and Economic Affairs and engaged with open innovation policy making. We started the Code for Europe project 1.5 years ago. And I'm just going to show you why it was needed to start with this project. So our observation is that cities are rapidly changing, and actually there is a contradiction what citizens want and how the city is operating. You know that cities are suffering with a legacy system, old IT infrastructure, purchasing problems like vendor lock, that they really try to stick to 20 years or 5 or 10 years to one particular IT supplier. And on the other hand, you see that the people, citizens really would like to work freely, timelessly, 24 hours connected. They want to have immediate feedback. And this is what we see, this creates a contradiction in the cities. The expectations from citizens and how the city is operating still within this legacy system. And therefore, we started with Code for Europe, because I think there is a technological gap in almost every city. Because as I told you, the citizens really want to be connected and they want to work timelessly and in the space what they prefer, and not queuing up in the city hall, how it is right now, very often. I would like to call your attention for 3 trends that are changing the urban scenarios, according to my opinion. One is that cities are operating more and more as an interface. There is a very important social layer in cities arising, and this is because the citizens are connected to each other as neighbors, as purchasers, as community members of Facebook groups. So there is a trend which is saying that actually we are much easily connect our neighbors through these interfaces than how city planners expect and they want to do top-down design. The second one is platformism. I think many of you already connected to many platforms. That we book our hotels through Airbnb, that we try to address issues to the city through platforms. And the third one is the peer-to-peer markets, that we try to share assets, that you don't need to have necessarily your own car, but you can share it with neighbors. That means for city halls, city governance, a radically new change in the economy, because there are many transactions that we were up until now not aware of. So me, I work in the economic department, and I always try to create awareness that we are really there is a radical shift in the economy. And this is what we were making, that so city governance needs to connect the citizens more and more. Up until now, you see the top-down approach was more customary, that the city thought we planned this square, how we want that it look alike, and people will make use of that. It was not so much bottom-up design. What we've been doing in the Code for Europe project, the Code for Europe project brings technology to the cities through working with commons and accessing the best technology. And it's a kind of facilitator in this process for cities to learn how to work in this ecosystem. In this ecosystem, you see that there is many platforms that I told you that they generate transactions. In the cloud, I put the Amsterdam situation from innovation agencies, the Waag, my colleagues are sitting here, that are very important actors in the city, which helps to accelerate, to accept and understand this process, working with the fellows, taking into account that there are platforms that are radically changing the environment of city governance. And I think this is the challenge in the future, how we should be interacting with the cities. And also my mission is to convince policymakers to take into account how many platforms are, how many interactions are, how easily citizens connect to each other, and we shouldn't miss this link. I would like to give the word to one of the fellows from Berlin, because now we are going to demonstrate what the fellows are working on and how far we are with the project. Before we start, maybe it's interesting for us to know how many of you are developers in this room? Wow, great representation. How many of you are working for the government, city government? Very good. Okay, nice proportion. And innovation agency? Great. Yeah.
Sorry for the delay. My name is I'm the fellow from Fraunhofer Focus in Berlin. And for our application, we collaborated with the Ethnological Museum of Berlin. And the problem that the museum had was that they had big amounts of untapped digital pictures. And so users were not able to search through these pictures, and the meta information was missing. In past, staff of the museum had to collect this
Dear
information by
participants,
hand.
the talks in the main conference hall are starting again, and the next one is Technology, Tools and Business. The talk itself is Technology and Open Data Platforms. Please make your way quickly to the main room, which is room 2. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we came up with a solution for this problem, and we developed the crowdsourcing application for that. So the crowd should take pictures through our web application to motivate the users, and we went for a gamification approach to motivate them. In our application, users can take pictures and earn points the more they take. And as a result, users are now able to search through the pictures. And for the staff of the museum, we set up a backend to control and to import and export data. The whole web application is based on the web framework Django, and it's in the programming language Python. It's available under the AGPL open source license. And right now, it will work. I will show you a quick demonstration as a video. I will just show you a quick video demonstration of the application. Here you can see the application. On top we have a slideshow which explains how everything works. But let's go down to search. pictures. And here we see a city and some houses. And we select the category. It's architectural photography. And we submit our tag. If you don't know what you see on the picture, you are also able to skip it. And randomly a second page is shown to let users verify the text of other users. Can you relate this image together? And you see we have right now 10 points. But we need to earn much more points to get into the high score list. So we continue to tag. Here's a picture which we can tag with the word animal. And yeah, after a while, we have 160 points. So we are able to split our name to the high school list right now. And we are on the 10th place. Okay, let's try to search for animal again. And you see right now, as a result, we see our picture, what we have just tagged. So animals just now stored in the database. In the backend, tags are related to a picture in the database, and you also see a tag counter, which will be incremented every time another user tags the same picture with the same word. And in the last column, the language of the tag is specified. Alright, thank you very much.
Does anyone have a question to Ellen about this application? This building? Yes, you have to press the button.
Did you consider using the OpenCV computer vision platform at any point?
OpenCV? No. No. Okay.
Anyone else? Then, yeah, another.
How do users get to your platform?
Oh well, it's created for the Ethnological Museum, and yeah, we just started last week, and we posted it on Twitter and on social networks, and yeah, we hope that many users will join our page right now and use it.
We also use the Europe Commons site, which publishes apps that are open source, so we also publish it there. We publish the code on GitHub because, of course, ideas that people use the code and create their own application with it. Ours is just for the Ethnological Museum, but other cities should use it maybe for their archives or tourist department. Does it answer your question? Is that
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Ellen. Now I would like to give the word to the Amsterdam team. We have 3 fellows. They are demonstrating their work. They were working very hard on these projects.
Hi. Hi, you're I think you can stand. We are fellows from Amsterdam, through Amsterdam. My name is Oyun, here is Giovanni, here is Steffen. Actually, we are very proud of the host bureau, especially Amsterdam, because we are such a diverse group. Giovanni from Italy, Piotr from America and Poland, and I'm from South Korea. So Zero Amsterdam actually want to have such a diverse group in order to work with to change the culture of the innovation in public sector. So we are trying to invite you to Zero Amsterdam with our 3 local challenges, one from West, South, East Council. First, West Council, we've been working a lot with the city civil servants. So it's a group of civil servants working in working for different functions, policemen, teachers, and social workers. But the common theme is they are all working in the same problems and problems of last 20 years. The community have developed themselves. They have created lots of initiative and public community space. So what you have asked from the council and the community that the problem was how can you find people each other? Where is a space I can use to provide our activities and what's going on in my neighborhood? Such kind of questions. So we've been working a lot with citizens in different activities. And we showed the app we developed. And last project is from Amsterdam South. They asked quite interesting question to us. Amsterdam South is quite a rich area with a lot of cultural heritage and museums. And South Council want to have more tourists in the south. But the fact is that here in Amsterdam, most of tourists are staying within the very close city center. They don't know how to explore themselves to other side of the area. So to develop the concept, we've been working with the mountain park in Amsterdam. Everybody might know if you visit Amsterdam. So we've been developing an app called Take a Hike. And next, my colleague will show the more story of actual apps and more details.
As we mentioned, we've had 3 challenges, and there was only 3 of us working most of the time, 3 days a week. So one of the challenges we ended at a constant space that we were able to fully develop it. What I want to tell you first about is the project in East, which was the distributors or the neighborhood. What we saw there is a need for connecting people with opportunities to get involved in the community and even start their own initiatives. And that's what we refer to as social accommodations for any social activity in the neighborhood. So, what we started building is a platform for the entire neighborhood to find these community centers, because people, 2-3 streets down the road, didn't even know that a community center existed around the corner, and didn't even know what was going on inside. Sometimes people that worked for the community center didn't even know what was going on that day. So we wanted to support multiple communities and wanted to make it a one-stop shop for all your community-based involvement, whether it's participating in events like yoga class or actually providing that class, finding interested people. We started with kind of what we saw the core of the whole application, which is a reservation system to request a room from a particular organization, a particular building, and get that process. Because we started with booking request management that would also offer things like setting offers and invoicing back and forth. And one particular community center that was on pilot used Google Calendar to split up and show what are the times booked in their slots. So before I go into it, one more thing before we go into the demo. On September 7th, we held a programming workshop as part of a push for sustainability and innovation. We wanted people from the community to get interested in supporting this platform and developing forward. So we wanted to introduce them to the language, the framework, and also inspire people to get into programming, because that would enhance the whole neighborhood. We wanted to expose citizens to web development, Ruby and Rails, and also base most of the program on Rails Girls workshops. So let me just show you real quick the demo of the app. So we call it Sound Us Up, which means together, and you can find what's happening in the neighborhood today, tomorrow, and other times. Go into the details, see who's involved, play through it. You can create an account and kind of have a lot more access through it, see the rooms, buildings, neighborhood, what spaces are available, etc. This is our pilot space, lots of different rooms, etc. Now we're showing you the requests. So eventually you can request a room, and once you have an account, you can actually see them and see what the progress is. Here we're creating a request for a new space, and as you can see, it's a fairly quick process, not a lot to fill out, not a lot of things are required, because it's handled kind of by people. You get a confirmation, and also confirmation in an email, and the person on the side will process it, and you can edit the person. So now I guess I'm going to show you what happens on the outside when the manager of the Wikimedia Center receives that request for that. You can see manage spaces, find different licenses, whether it's for neighborhood or for commercial interest. And you can assign these requests and later on process them into the main buffers and send them out. The person gets an email and it can go back to the site and click accept or decline. So you can find out more on our GitHub repository. We're going to have very soon really nice README and where to go. This project is also released on the MIT collection. This was GPL. So anyway, I'm going to hand it off to Giovanni to talk about the South project with the tourists. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take you to a quick trip to the South District of Amsterdam, and as you explained in the presentation at the beginning, we were asked to bring tourists in the area, which sparked in us the idea of the hidden gems, of the hidden treasures. And since day one, we tried to develop this concept of finding treasures into the idea of a scavenger hunt, which brought us to work with the Amsterdam marketing department and with the civil servant that is our runner, so it's called within the project, to build some interesting routes and interesting locations to visit in your trip to Amsterdam, or even if you are a local, to find new hidden gems. And taking this from analog, so from paper to digital, required us to build certain components of what we call the Take a Hike platform. So we actually built three main components, which is composed of a content creation system that runs on the website and allows people with the role of curators to add new attractions, to add new location, and this allows us to reuse data as we play through it and add the data from both the suggested from the person we work with and from open data sources. Allows the route creation, connecting all these attractions together, and then later data analysis from the check-ins, so-called, that we collect when people actually visit those locations. So we also have a web API on the website that delivers the content to the mobile apps we build and allows the collection of the check-ins from the users to the location. We have two mobile apps, native apps for iOS and the Android platform, and so they are really what the user, the players interact with. It's an urban exploration game, and basically you earn and share rewards at the end of a route that you can share through Facebook. As you can see, this is the digital version of paper game distribution. So you can actually play with it, download with it through the website that you see here. That we're going to share all the resources later, and we also have a quick demo to show how potential players play with the app. So
this is Giovanni on the slide.
And we included a small help just to get you started with it. And once you learn how to use it, which is very, very simple and easy, you can browse through the available routes depending on the profile, on how you feel today, basically. And you can, at a certain point, go hiking. So go exploring. I'm going to bike very fast, thanks to the magic of the technology. So we are getting very, very close to the location. And once you're there, you get all kind of fancy sound effects. just want to share a couple of resources that you also you can find us on the web. So let's see, GitHub, the Heroku URL for the some stuff that I feel talked about. If you're interested in what's behind all our work, we create some Storyfy timelines where you can see all the meetings and all the things we went through for creating what we actually delivered. And same goes for the South. Everything you saw is available like out of the box if you just want to get the code for use. And
this project actually is at least all three apps are on the MIT license, so they're free to adapt by any city and you run it differently. And if you have any questions, we can come to ask.
Any questions?
Did you have any language problems, or did you meet any cultural barriers because you're all from abroad?
That's people speak English quite well. All the English people speak us. And I've been based here the last 4 years, so I have understanding. And actually, such a situation, 40% of citizens are expats, so immigrants for the school. Of course, it can be easier, but it was not very helpful.
How do you measure like your success? If you're successful, like how many people are using those apps to get the feedback? How many people like to do that?
So sadly, we haven't finished all the apps, and we may not be around to see all the effects. It's hard to measure the effects of what we do because they might be long term, and the biggest success might be that another city picks it up and develops more or adapts in a certain way, and has a much better time than Amsterdam itself. But we had a few experiments already.
Success is an interesting question. What do you want? How do you define success? It's a question. And we have 9 months time. It's pretty short to work on 3 projects. So what positive outcome of project that how much traction you have gained from this project? And so regarding that sense, we have for West East project, there's a new project group set up from April. We want to actually follow up our development to make it bigger. And for the South project, we just showed the apps to the demo. We can already replicate apps to the local text. And also we have got interest from other organizations and how can you use this concept for our needs. So I see there is a kind of needs and traction and to understand what is the benefit of using some kind of app.
yeah, if I can add one thing, I don't know how you measure it, but we consider success also the fact that we managed to get in touch different departments of the same Stadsdel, of the same municipality that actually would we use the same app that was already existing, that was a commercial app, and they would probably adopt the other department, but they didn't know the existence. So I think in that case you can measure the success in terms of how much money is saved by actually having connected people in the so.
And to the final point, there is also the soft impact that we don't see every day, but it kind of goes back to us eventually. That we change people's perspectives by looking at things differently and talking the problems differently. And Giovanni said, introducing them to products that are out there that we know about and had no idea that they could exist. Any more questions?
Just a quick question. Have you guys, not just you three, but the code of your team, have you thought about creating apps that enhance democratic engagement for citizens rather than the civic products that you come up with enhance maybe, as you've shown here, but things that allow people to find out about what's happening in their neighbourhood, make it a tagging of information in neighbourhoods so that they can see where the problems are, so they can use Google Glass or raise their phone and have a look and see what's planning permissions coming up or a crime has taken place. Because we're here at the Open Forum, and there is massive amounts of open data sets that are out there. About integrating perhaps an open data set or every freely available open data set, plugging into a geographic map, and then turning that into a place where people can go to one-stop shop to get the information they need for what's happening in their society.
If I can try and answer that? Yeah. The problem is that data proton came from the city itself, so the city departments informed with a question they want to answer within the time span of the Code program, that they wanted external expertise and then bring it into the city itself. So the database, there were 20 problems being pitched by city departments in Amsterdam, and we selected 3 people. So this problem wasn't defined as a problem such by the city departments themselves, but in the next round, if somebody comes with this issue. I have to say that from the Amsterdam perspective, we also looking hackathons and other tools to promote the use of open data and the creation of apps, and there's currently an expanding project running at the city department. So there are different, I think, different tools being used at different levels where this problem is being addressed, but then maybe not from but maybe perhaps next year or in a city.
Just to add, right now in Amsterdam, European Innovation Week is going. We also participate on that on Friday. And the main theme is how to engage, how to make grassroots innovation happen in the city. And actually there are many platforms. One of them is City Lab called. It's being developed by the Pakhuis des Wijngaards discussion forum, a very important actor in this ecosystem, where actually citizens can address bottom-up problems, what they are struggling with, what they find, what they would like to see getting improved in the cities. And we also have Voorlebuurt. It's a kind of transparent budgetary system where the city keeps inside how the public money is being spent. But I think your recommendation or your point would be a very nice new angle in the second generation of Code for Europe, because we're just finishing the first pilot. We are piloting with the fellows right now, and next year we're going to hire new fellows in 6 cities, and then we try to ensure that actually we can build Code for Europe as an organization in Europe, and this is the methodology we want to promote for governments to work temporarily with smart, young coders, like our colleagues here. At this point, how to create engagement for citizens should be really crucial. So thank you for raising that.
Okay, can I quickly comment on that? The Helsinki developers don't seem to be here, but the key project, what's been done in Helsinki is actually they've built an API to the new document management system all the politicians and city council use in Helsinki. So that will enable citizens to, for example, tag their neighborhood that I want to see in the future, let's say via emails, all documents that the city council discusses on my neighborhood. That's a quite cool project actually.
I think it was very nicely made that actually they crowdsourced the API question. So what kind of APIs developers would like to have? So this is a very noble way of listening to the needs of developers.
Just one interesting point that we found out in Amsterdam is that there's a lot of work and thoughts around data, opening data, and data that's not public, but is in the government. What we saw is that a lot of decision makers still don't use data in validating their hypotheses and their policies, but this is changing. We saw on the ground one of the people we got to interact with. What he does is helps these decision makers to answer the questions whether what they are doing is correct, and kind of by force of coolness of it, to for lack of a better word, more
things around, if I'm walking around Westminster Council, the city authority really wants to know whether I'm a resident or not. And so that throws up questions about registration, and rather than sort of make it very easy to then have a say in the debate within the app, the local authority wants to integrate it with existing consultation systems and things like that. So the challenge, I think, which is very interesting, which is the next level beyond the data level, is how do these new services relate to and engage with and integrate with often offline processes for digital for democratic engagement.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the answer. We have to move to the next part where we're going to describe how the project is developing, what kind of things we are right now in. But before that, I would like to give you a very short recap some key features of the project, just that you remember that we have actually 10 fellows, and Manchester, Helsinki, and Rome cannot be here, but you can follow their work on our website, on the GitHub. And also important to understand that actually what we are trying to do right now is you can call also kind of baby step, kind of first introductory phase to build this innovation ecosystem in cities together with the app developers, with the fellows, the city governance, the innovation agency, arranging events, hackathons, and this is the first phase we are now in, and I must say it's quite successful in the sense that we actually make city halls listen and to work with the fellows. Here, I see a question.
I just want to say one thing, that the biggest problem we've got in Britain is the fact that the city halls don't want to listen.
They don't want to listen. You know, there are tips, because we can talk about it later, like, they also don't want to listen in Amsterdam, but they just want to do budget cuts, reorganization, and it's sometimes being labeled luxurious, kind of ads. But as they understand that we work with commons and it's actually a more efficient purchasing structure, it actually leads to efficiency, and they also like to think in business cases. If you make sure that you can demonstrate opening up geographical data, what kind of new apps the city was doing, and what kind of new startups were generating. If you have this kind of proof of evidence, policymakers are starting to listen. And right now we are working also to make this kind of business cases more visible for more cities to share it, also like the GitHub posts. Another question?
Part of the trick of that is finding the right person as well.
Exactly.
Well, there is somebody who desperately wants to help.
The problem is, in Britain in general, I'll say, is that the councils work in a certain way, and if you want to get anything done which will translate across all the councils, you'll have to go through to 650 city councils to get it to work. And they work in their own way, and they don't want to, you've got to integrate with them, and each one of them has got its own way of methodology of dealing with fixing the street problem.
I think this is why we are here now, to extend Code for Europe, because we can't do it alone. It's so complex. There is, for us, for 3 years work to make this project happen. We used to actually convince politicians, and it's very complex. You need very good argumentations, very good business cases, really examples which are tangible, that can be translated in euros, in how many startups, how many people, net-based entrepreneurs who get a job, and things like that. But because time, I see, have to move to the next part. Actually, just to remind you that we work together with ESADE, with Waag, with the Innovation Agency and City of Amsterdam, to coach the fellows, to coach these 10 fellows, and how we work. So they work independent in the cities, they have their own projects, but every 2-3 months we have a training, and they meet up. And now I would like to give the word to Anna Claire from City of Amsterdam and Giovanni from the Waag, and they're going to show you what are the experiences of the first fellowship and how we're going to continue next year.
Hi, I'm Susanna, this is Anna Claire. We have been working with the Amsterdam Fellows for the last 9 months, and it was a big party. We're here to share our lessons learned
more work that has been done. But we will share our perspective. You understand?
I understand. Okay. We're going to give three perspectives, starting actually from the city. So indeed in Amsterdam we were lucky when we started that we could work with Waag Society. I've spoken to people from around the world who know Waag Society. I think the city of Amsterdam working together with this innovation ecosystem was really, innovation organization, was a perfect connection to get started. So really the city itself, the political organization, with all the innovation from outside.
And the ecosystem is not just having a lab, but it's having all the hacker spaces, everybody that's involved in the dev community, but also schools that teach IT. So it's a whole bunch of people that you need to have in your network to make it successful to have this ecosystem.
So in Amsterdam, for example, is also a very important network for fellows. So when this is done, the next step was to get a commitment within a city. So that means the element, the politicians, but then as soon as you agree that you will do this, we have to find challenges. As was just said before, in Amsterdam, or as Yvonne said before, we asked any civil servant within a city, come with a problem you have, a challenge that could be solved with an app. But then we needed the commitment from their directors, their bosses, their IT department, and themselves. So, a challenge, but I think for some reason we managed through the individual civil servants to enter and to get the full.
And I also think that's an answer actually to your question about the complexity with municipalities. Maybe you should really focus on just one civil servant that has an idea that's passionate. And that really showed us when we did the pitching that there are individuals out there that really go an extra mile, and they are the ones you want to get started with.
Through their passion, indeed. So then we had three challenges in Amsterdam, three, let's say, challenge holders. And we realized throughout the year it's really important to coach them. And maybe we didn't do this enough yet. To help them also convince their colleagues, how do you work with open data, with opening work. And it's really important to keep supporting these people who are a little bit maybe on their own within their traditional organization. I mean, it's still government.
Well, you've met them already, the fellows from Amsterdam. What we learned when we want to get started with the fellows, that they really need to have the freedom to move around. So the procedures that are all over the place, first give them room to explore, to meet people, to find out what really is going on in the neighborhood. Don't give them 20 pages to read or to 100, but just let them go into the neighborhood and meet the people there. Let's have dinner together. That's a really good way for them to really understand what's going on, and you might actually find points that you in your government organization haven't, and have pinpointed other problems that they want to start to work on as a starting point that might open your eyes. Having insight in the structure of government is also very important. It's very complicated. Everybody knows this. Even people that work within City Hall don't know the entire structure all the time and know who to go to for what. If you need to fill in form A, B, C, or D. This takes a long, long time. And we really struggle with this because it takes up so much time. And you want to move more quickly. And it's just complicated and sometimes frustrating. So it's really good if you have, for instance, Claire, who has worked with several departments within the city
sent me 2 days ago. I sent around a tweet within my city because we're organizing this week where colleagues can teach each other any skill they have. And actually the mission of Giovanni at some point when you realize that many civil servants still work with Internet Explorer, was like, gosh, please, use Firefox. If you cannot download this, which is the case in many places in Amsterdam, here is the link to the portable app. Actually, I only retweeted this tweet this morning. He sent me yesterday. I was like, oh, can I retweet this? And what will the ICT department tell me if I do this? But this morning I thought, I should do this. More people should do it. Firefox. So I really love how these guys, that's what actually the point we want to make, the 2-for-1 deal. They come in, like a startup to work on this app for tourism. You realize they make this backend system so colleagues can fill in data, and really they're blocked because there's still this stupid Internet Explorer. So they have this extra mission, this extra offer by helping people to use Firefox.
Another good example of this is the technical workshop they did for the Waag, for the East Challenge. It's not that they just made a booking system in this challenge, but they also engage people from the neighborhood to get into coding themselves and to make them enthusiastic to follow up on this app as soon as the fellows are out of the program. Who's picking up this this app? Well, people from the community, hopefully, because they got inspired.
Yeah, and I was there, but I'm not a techie, so I didn't discuss technical things with them, but it was really interesting that we will offer this extra workshop. So for those people in the room, there's 3 stuck in a bite effect. I'm sorry, this is a joke. It's there's saying to say like the internet, let's say the outside is looks. Well, what happens? There's those 3 strange guys, foreign guys. What do they do here? But the effect they have by bringing a different approach, new knowledge, outside knowledge, like also Claude said, this moves things. And maybe that's also what makes working with them very more fun. One of my colleagues said, they come in, they bring cookies and chips, and they just sit there, and it's a completely different work approach. So that's one thing, but also that they would say, so what do the people in the neighborhood think about this? So even the questions they would ask, the colleagues in the city would take these to other projects. Okay, so what do the people in the neighborhood actually think about it? Well,
fellows that are temporarily can have disruptive effect on your procedures, and disruptive in a very positive way, because it's not their job on the line. They are only there for 9 months and will go out again. And they can say things that you might want to have said, but don't dare to say to your colleagues directly. And I'm not saying bad words, but I mean, they can be a bit more rebel and push the limits a little bit more than somebody who's on a fixed contract. And this is a very positive outcome of having temporal people. So that's why I would really recommend a fellowship temporarily. This is your common site. I think Paul will talk a little bit more about it. I just wanted to show it because it's getting online. I heard it already during this day. How do we get government online is quite a tricky thing because a lot of paperwork is happening in traditional ways. Having an app is mostly a trend thing now. It's hip, it's cool to have. It's not understood yet that it's actually a useful tool. Why is it? Because it's not common to have an app developed. They don't even know how to publish it. It was one of our biggest struggles to get one of the departments to become an app publisher online. Because who's responsible for it? Whose name is going to be on it? Can I act on behalf of the entire Amsterdam? Can I be a publisher? Big questions that we still don't have answers for. So we had to improvise quite a lot, but we actually want to make the city departments publishers. And they need to in order to get more apps out there. And that's what the fellows are helping them with. We can just to another, but it's also allowing other people to do maintenance and progress on your work. Because if you keep it closed, then you're always fixed to that party that did it for you, and they will keep the maintenance, and usually it's a commercial party, and it's very expensive. If it's open source, anybody can help out, and if I create an app and Claire wants to build upon it, I can incorporate her work again in mine, so it's a huge benefit. But it is not common in City Hall. This is really a thing people are scared of, so having the fellows there help them understand what it means to have open source code. With the last one, fellow is bigger than coder. A fellow produces code. That's what they are hired for. They will not do your graphic design for you or your text editing, so they need other people to create the apps together with them. Some fellows actually are a little bit more multidisciplinary, but actually there's a big advantage to fellows that they are bigger than coders because they are open source ambassadors. They are code-free ambassadors, open data ambassadors. They are so passionate about what they're doing, and they're willing to talk about it on conferences like this, but also one-on-one with other civil servants. Our fellows have been to several presentations and inspired a lot of people to get there. So a coder plus, that's what they are. And we're really, really grateful for having them for the last 9 months.
So, if there's any people from cities around here and you also want to have these fellows in your city, want to participate, please apply as a city. Come to us if you want more information. I think soon there will be more information online how you can participate as a city. There's different levels. So please bring in this revolution from outside to change your city.
And if you are a coder and you feel appealed, of course, come join our 2014 program. We're under development right now what challenges will be out there for 2014, but it will be the same cities. You can apply to any city you like, you're not limited to the country you live in, and hopefully we'll see you in 2014.
It's very inspiring experience. Before we move to the next part, actually Nesta is going to demonstrate the Europe Commons, one of the main achievements of the projects we are very proud of. This is about how to share the codes the fellows are working on. And there's going to be a second part developed, but this is still very much in pipeline. So this is the policy recommendations and showcasing the business cases. This is also going to be added to the Europe Commons. But I would like to call Paul from Nesta, who is going to demonstrate the platform.
So I don't know if I'm going to do so much of a demonstration, but at least going to go through and just give us a little more information about it. But yes, my name is Paul Maggini. We're working at Nesta, kind of working on this aspect of sort of how do we increase the amount of sort of sharing and reuse of the sort of technology that the fellows are developing, and also other apps that other say hackers and organisations are creating. So we're kind of faced with a problem that there's all this interesting software being created, and all kinds of things going on out there, and different things being used in different places. But how to know about it, how can we kind of start reusing it and showing more of that. Well, sort of first people to ask this question back in sort of 2010, I think the New York Senate put forward the idea of a kind of apps marketplace, and that then became the Civic Commons, which some of you probably know that. But that then evolved into what is now the kind of Code for America Commons. Over time, Code for America took sort of ownership of Civic Commons and rebranded it, and that's become kind of their common site that shows what's being used throughout America. So the question is kind of how can we sort of do this around Europe, and it takes on the same ideas forward, how can we develop this kind of showing here as well. Again, sort of looking back a little bit at the history, what's happened is that the World Bank, then sort of looking at what happened to the commons and so on, they then sponsored the development of kind of a reusable commons this year, I've been collaborating closely with them throughout this year on working about this development process. We decided to kind of have a discussion and rewrite kind of the Drupal distribution part as open civic to distinguish it from kind of other elements and kind of civic commons and things around it. So other parts of civic commons such as the wiki, which go from over as well. So open civic is kind of the software platform now which is available on the Drupal website. It was used to kind of run the sanitation hackathon, which was again a World Bank project. More recently, it's used to run the National Day of Civic Hacking, which was a similar kind of cross the US hackathon type of event in June. And so also then I used it to set up the Euro Conference, which is the site that we want to use to kind of showcase how there's a kind of place to go for all of the code for Europe projects, some of which you can hear about here. And also other software and things that are being used kind of widely, or maybe not so widely, but hopefully use this as a way to kind of grow and spread things. So what are the main parts to that? Basically, it's a list of those applications, a list of organisations that are involved, and deployments, so kind of where those apps are being used. A whole bunch of kind of metadata then capturing about their applications, vendors, what type of taxonomy, or where does it fit in kind of civic space, things like that. Organisations, again, it's kind of who's working on this stuff. This could be companies, it could be NGOs, and then of course the kind of civic institutions, local government organisations, that kind of thing, like using those, publishing and so on. And then finally, so the deployment, so who's using what where, and potentially kind of some richer information about how successful has that been, things like that. So then, with kind of pages like this, for example, pulling together kind of has information about an app, information about sort of who's creating it, general metadata type stuff, and then kind of look at some of these pages on the site. There's some information about kind of where it's being used, where it's being deployed, and that showing that, things like that. So we're in the process right now of kind of uploading information about the Code for Europe stamps as well. There's a couple that are on there now, and I should think like probably the next couple of weeks we'll have all of them represented. I'm just putting a sort of Code for Europe tag on some of those, so it's easy to get those out. In terms of then sort of looking going forwards, some of the things that looking to explore so with the site then, obviously one of the problems which maybe isn't so much an issue for the States, but more an issue here in Europe is multi-lingual support. So technically most of the work has been done on this, but just looking to now kind of build out actual translations for the same site. So that could be something that will roll into the Europe Common site later. But also another aspect of this is that, again, because of kind of the World Bank's interest in this is also in kind of in more developing parts of the world. And so there's also been this kind of ongoing story here that Kenya, which has probably been running for a while now, that's along with other organisations in Africa, that's developing a code for Africa. They're looking to take up the city and build a similar kind of marketplace site for Africa. Similar kind of work going on in the Caribbean. There's code for all type things happening there. And at the same Latin America as well. So again, the need for sort of that translation capabilities is key here, and also the idea of having a usable software platform. Another idea that at least particularly so in ESADE we're very keen on looking at further, mostly because so the Alliance for Useful Evidence is a kind of partly ESADE-backed organisation which is sort of very focused on looking at this idea of evidence and how to do what you need to do to gather rich evidence, what types of evidence can you gather, that kind of thing. So we can imagine these are just sort of the kinds of things, just examples of randomised controlled trials, case reports, case studies, different levels of qualitative and possibly quantitative information that we might explore trying to gather about these apps. So it's all very well having a nice marketplace of apps, but actually which ones are being really effective, which ones are working well and maybe not so well. And it might be, these are sort of early days and ideas we're sort of exploring. But it could be looking to develop something that's similar to so CCAN, in terms of open data, has the ability to categorize the data in terms of this 5-star something similar, around the sort of application and software side as well. One other idea as well that came out of discussions again with sort of folks in Africa who are interested in similar work, but also I think it applies very much. I've had conversations with people at local government in the UK as well. It's sort of something around, something like Euro Commons, it gives you an idea of kind of what's there and what's being used and what exists. But then there's also pieces which governments kind of maybe want to try and put together and they don't exist right now. Or maybe they need it on a different functionality, it exists on one type of platform, but they want it on a different platform, so something around things like that. So, could you have something that's a bit like a kind of mix of Kickstarter, AngelList kind of, so maybe in Euro College you could have the ability to propose projects, and then other kind of government organisations could get together and say, yes, we're interested in this, we'll contribute something, they'll work on the requirements, we'll put funding together and, build a kind of marketplace of possibilities, which then, of course, could over time turn into applications. So that's all I have really. So this is just kind of some contact information. If you have any suggestions about kind of unicorns and like other kinds of features that could be added over time, please do get in touch. Any questions?
If not, I just would like to have an experience from Amsterdam when we started to think about what to publish on Euro Commons. The question was raised: should it be like open source, or if there was an app developer that made an app for the city, for citizens, like parking application, could be also published. So you see that actually more and more companies are realizing that they have to open up, and that I like so much in your concept that it also amplifies negotiation, that companies are opening up their codes. So this is, I think, the expectation, because they notice that there is a new business model coming, they can't keep it closed. I think it's very visible on the market.
We sort of had internal debates about, what's the level of what's the level of what should go on and what shouldn't.
Yeah, it's almost a trade-off. They have to see
some level of openness.
Yeah, so they keep their premium model, and I think it's very interesting. And as I told you, we will work on the policy repository, that we have to find out which way to make it visible, but there is a huge demand from cities indicating that they want to share open data, argumentation, documents, best practices, and I think it's very good to add it somewhere, someplace, either blogging or, yeah. So thank you very much, Paul, really inspiring. We have a very nice talk from .open from Barcelona, from Steffen Becker. He is actually engaged arranging app services, and he will even talk about how to engage developing countries, making understanding the use of apps and creating great ideas.
Hi everyone, my name is Steffen. I'm from Open, a Barcelona-based company. We're engaged in open innovation in the mobile ecosystem, and in this project called For Europe, we're actually helping out with destination communications. But what I want to present is our methodology, our idea on how to actually help cities to become this platform that we always talk about. A platform for the creation of apps, a platform for the distribution of apps. And the title is big, right? And I want to show a little bit how we break this down. There's the obvious fact that that urban life will become predominant, the predominant life over time. So what does that mean in terms of problems? You have problems in traffic, every city has that problem. You have problems in sanitation, and that's not only in developing countries or in the cliche that you would come up with, but it actually happens also in the more developed world. Problems around job search. You see already, this is an arbitrary, kind of a random choice of problems, picked just like that. And there's many more. What is important is that these are big, systemic problems. I mean, that is how you tackle something like that. Well, and how are apps actually related to big problems like that? How do you bridge that? So, what we think of apps are actually, we think of apps as something very flickery. We think of apps as small solutions to everyday problems. So one important start in thinking about how to tackle big society problems is to break them down. And these small individual problems are actually at the right scale for apps. What do you need to build a good app? I think we saw a beautiful example of the Amsterdam fellows that actually went to people and asked the people and worked with the end users to understand what are the real needs. Because that's really what you need to do, right? You need to first understand end users. And then you build the according solution to it, not the other way around. I just have to preach this in because I'm from a design background, and that's always something that you see a lot with technologies. That is done because it can be done, not because it's needed. But ultimately what you need is this safe and predictable platform. And that's where the city can come in. That's actually one of the, philosophically speaking, that's one of the challenges. How do you turn the city into something safe and predictable? And you need participants, coders, app makers, as we like to call them, because they need many different perspectives on the problem, not only code, technology, but also design and so forth. And then you need great problems. And we have created a methodology, and that's what we call a hackathon, that actually helps to identify problems. And we work together with cities and organizations to actually break down problems into problem statements that are manageable at the app scale. And then we invite app makers to code, to create solutions for these problems, and these app makers get expert support. That's all online. We have a platform, a website where all this happens, and throughout that process, which is like 3 to 4 months, you develop a solution, and at the end there's a competition, and you get not only one solution, but you get a whole bunch of solutions, an ecosystem. And I want to show you a quick example that we did together with the World Bank. How can you improve or solve the traffic problem in Cairo? Again, a big systemic problem. We broke it down to problem statements that are at the right size for apps. Problems like sexual harassment of women, which is the main reason why women don't use public transportation in Cairo. And that's an app-sized problem. Many others, car sharing, how do you make a more efficient use of existing cars in order to reduce actually cars on the street. We had mentors for all the different aspects, mentors for problems, mentors for technology, for design, and so forth. And it ended up in a really great event in Cairo, and this is one example of an app that came out. It's called Lydia, and it's the first mobile application voter system in Egypt. And it sounds like, well, what does that solve? Well, it's actually quite a big problem in Egypt, because it's not really safe. If your car breaks down on a highway or freeway in Cairo, that's not quite a safe thing to happen, because of the traffic, of the wild traffic, but also there are not a lot of trusted mechanics out there. So it was actually solving a need that we didn't really expect to also be a problem. We did a project together with a company in Spain, so that doesn't only work with cities and organizations, but also with companies. And they had an API for job search. We did a hackathon, problems around finding a job in a city. We had more than 500 participants, 25 apps coming out, stuff that again was never considered before. This is an app that came out there, which is basically the idea is to team up to apply for a job. And I think that's something that also here in Code for Europe, that you actually realize the moment you put together these people and coders, app makers, and problems, things come up, solutions come up that you would have never expected. And I think that is really one of the great merits of open innovation and opening up and inviting people to collaborate on problems. The last thing I want to show is the project again with the World Bank about sanitation, which is part of World Bank's 2012, which was about hackathons around the world to improve sanitation in many countries. We did kind of the app part of it. We had more than 800 participants, 80 app ideas, so we structured the whole process, and 25 plus apps coming out. This is one, so Tarifa, actually came from Tanzania, and it helps to actually just monitor the sanitation problems of the country. So it helps to collect information, to visualize, and to transfer the information to government or decision makers to know where are the problems really and what kind of problems there are. And these things are, in terms of transparency, in terms of democratic participation, just an amazing step forward for a lot of these countries. We've still some open, so here you can participate. We are doing one for the Open Cities project on tourism. We have lots of European cities participating, and you can actually, right now we are at the competition phase, so you can join and vote for your favorite app. And we mentioned Helsinki just earlier. We're doing one for transparencies, for improving transparency for citizens. How can citizens be more involved in the decision-making process of a city? How can they learn about what's going on in their neighborhood? And how can open data be used to create solutions in that area? Here you can still create your app. You can still participate in that hackathon. And that's really what I want to say.
Does any of you have a question to Steffen about their work or? Yes.
Hi, I'm Anna and I work for an organization called Internews. I've been very involved with all coding and hackathons and creating mobile application. And one of the things that always strikes me about it is that when we are measuring impact of those projects, we look at how many apps were created, how many people download it, but there's absolutely nothing, and when I mean nothing, I literally nothing available on, is it actually anyone using those apps, and are those apps actually providing to people using it more or better information than any other means? Because that's the real impact, right? Otherwise, why to create an app, or why to even provide that kind of information? And that's true for apps and hackathons, as much as it is true, for example, for Code for Kenya, which I've seen very closely in Kenya. There's a lot of buzz about it. Brilliant. I know a lot of the people that ended up working with media outlets and government in creating technology, but nobody knows at all if this money is being completely wasted or if there's actually something coming out of it, which is better informed decision from citizens using those kind of technologies.
Well, I mean, that comes down again to the question of success, right? How do you measure success? And I think one problem is that actually we face in our work is that all this has actually just started, right? So the ones that I showed you, the earliest one in Cairo was last year, and it took a while because of the political problems in the country, so it finished around December of last year. And then you need time, right, to actually measure what's going on. And it's actually a lot more complex than that even, because the distribution, right, that's actually how do the people get those apps? This was all about creation, right? And I think that's where we are here right now. Right? It's about how do we create better apps or build a better world. Now the part of how do those apps get to the actual end user, I think that's a whole, that's the natural next step, and where we, I think, need to work on. And then I think it makes sense to actually start measuring, because I think that's actually the problem that any developer in any world has. Right? There's more than 1 million apps. How do you find your right end user group? Right? That's not a problem that is only in these projects or in these countries. It's actually already in the app stores right now.
Okay, 2 or 3 more questions. Yeah. 4.
If I may follow up to your point, just speak up like that. One thing that we saw in comments like this made at least myself think that maybe judging these projects is a little premature.
mature because what we're doing is actually trying to innovate. And when you look at companies in the private sector that are innovating, they're dumping millions and billions of dollars into their R&D departments without necessarily looking for quick results, you know. And innovation costs money, and research costs money, and the perspective needs to be a little augmented. That you need to give time, and yes, skepticism is warranted, but you need to find the kind of golden middle where these projects allow time to get off the ground and find a formula that works.
Oh, sorry. To answer just very quickly to that. First of all, business put an outrageous amount of money in research. So we are doing it before we put money into research, actually before we even think about it. And the second one is also that it's slightly different to use private money than to use public money, right? Because we're talking about NGOs, World Bank, this is public money. This is money that comes from taxpayers. This is money that we're putting into development. It's very different than using private money from a private company.
I see your point.
Well, I completely agree with your point. I mean, I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
No.
So, but I think, one of the reasons how we want to develop Commons for Europe, that site, which is a catalogue of apps that are built, is we want that to be a place that site owners or cities can actually report about the impact that their apps are having, and to be honest about that, because otherwise what you'll have creators reinventing the wheel, reinventing the act of creation when perhaps they don't need to, but they're convinced in order to do that because there is just no evidence about whether things work or don't. And so I think it's beholden on the commissioners, the purchasers, the adopters of these applications, as well as the creators, to just actually try to provide some evidence about whether things work or don't. I mean, I don't think it has to be, there are cases where in one city there are particular conditions that means that you shouldn't always write off something that doesn't work, for example. But I think you should go into that integration of that application with at least the data to suggest, this is how this stands a chance of working or not.
Some more questions, just from policy-making point of view, at least in Amsterdam, but I can add that we can't actually right now give turnkey solutions from the coders because they are not there yet. The organization is not there yet, but also very nicely, Susanna described the side effects, what this project is making at the energy. It's already, I think it's paying off because decision makers, managers who are in this mid-management layer who are kind of late, they make things stop in the city or they already get aware that GitHub is existing. You can share, you can watch what Manchester is doing. So this is a kind of evolution process started in the cities that they start to share and look at each other's tools. So this is already, I think, the winning point at working with this company.
Can I just help in replying on your behalf as the Code for Europe people against the argument of if private money is public money? It's public money that's being used for the good. What you're doing, if it fails, it opens up another pathway to know not to go, and the experience is something that is to be cherished and to be used for further things. And public funding, guess what? Private money is very mercenary, complete mercenary. They don't spend any money unless they know they're going to get a profit out of it. Public money should be used because it's all that money, and it should be used to support projects such as Code for Europe. Because quite frankly, I have no faith in business to be able to give you the answers. I have faith in young people like yourself.
One question that I'd like to bring here is...
Could you speak up a little bit?
Sure, maybe I would ask you. The point is, maybe applications are profitable even in the social point, but the good point that I think she has pointed out is we are not measuring the impact. Maybe this impact is reducing the need of social services in some other points, but we don't know how much money are we saving in some other parts? So maybe these apps that you are developing are quite profitable, and we don't know. So the point that I'm liking for this, and I'm even starting the university with this, is that there is no theoretical model. Which, how can we assess this? How can we say, oh, the overall return on investment, not the return on investment of a private company, but the social return of investment, maybe it's profitable, but we don't know. If we don't know, we cannot push to policies promoting this kind of approach.
I think it's right now it's a very good question. There are many things going on. There are research being done. Just in Amsterdam, I can share it with you. iTunes selling numbers, the apps which being downloaded, how the startups being established because of open data. And Open State Foundation is an organization in Amsterdam that are measuring these numbers. Many researchers like you started to envision this market. But I would say let's keep in touch because it's a really important question how to measure and then policymakers are asking the kind of performance matrix on this topic. And I'm really interested, but show me what is the turnover.
The European Commission is making like any policy. So could you please? Yeah, the European Commission. Now, the European Commission is wasting, like any other public body, a huge amount of money, for example, in the last framework, in order to measure the impact of the systems. It's not easy. I mean, these are public policy, no public policy project. I mean, if you say waste money, look at the money that the World Bank or any other funds, and you will see how much waste money or what money, how the private company is wasting. Why? Because it's obvious. All these projects have a high uncertainty. So unless you have a crystal ball, it will be difficult. Or if not, you renounce to invest in any kind of new project that will open new doors. Then you go for the safe side, no innovation. That's easy, simple. Everybody knows it. So there are models are not done. I mean, the world has failed. It's the ones we live in. Numbers go. The European Commission now has a vision. It's really making our life complicated with all the numbers that we have to provide and so on. To believe in these models, I think about this makes sense. These models like knowledge and many other models, but this is in the private sector. It's not the thing of private. Anything that has a high degree of uncertainty, which is innovation, it's difficult to model. In this case, the case of farms, this think first there is a cultural factor that is very important. And second is the amount of money that you invest in this way. It's so low. In comparison to any other project, for example, in the World Bank, sanitation and so on, it was huge. I mean, the amount of and the cultural effect and it's so clear in these kinds of projects that it looks like a new way to do policy that should be explored and has new things with respect to the authors of doing policy. But, I mean, in the case of the World Bank was the development projects, the tradition of doing policy. That everybody knows that it's probably not the way to go anymore since 7 years. So that's the new argument. We know what you think. No, doing policy, you will never know what you think. What do you think?
What?
Do you have a question?
Well, I have a comment. Okay, I need to. Hello? Okay. I wanted to add something to her question because I feel that sometimes we measure or we try to measure like hackathons, like thinking about how like the apps that comes out from there are sustainable or not, or how people are going to use it. And we have to think about hackathons not just as that, but measure the impact that they have in the ecosystem. Like when we do these events, we are not just like trying to build apps, but we are building the community around open data and how to use it. And we are when we code, we don't just code from nothing. because we are releasing this code open source, we're building the community of open source for other people to use the code and to look at how to use the data. So we are not just building apps for the people to use it, but we are building we are adding to the ecosystem of the open source and open data.
It's going to be added as an indicator for the performance.
I wanted to add in the same sense that measuring performance is absolutely fine, it's a great idea, but especially when it comes to hackathons, that lately they're very questioned and I don't share that. They're usually compared very unfairly to other projects. I mean, you spend very few money, I mean like 4 pizzas and a couple of years maybe, and you get out, I don't know, 10